We see Chu Yong, who tells Tan Tan that their paths diverge at this moment and asks him to take care of himself. Tang Tang, wiping his tears with a handkerchief, promises that he will work hard on himself and help Chu Yong sometime. The guys wave goodbye to each other. Next, we observe the master Meng Xiaoran, who stands on a cliff and looks at Chu Yong from above. Addresses the guy the words saying that he takes care of himself. The guy takes the first step and asks not to worry about him. Chu Yong sets out on a journey. He must change this world. Going on the road, he will change his fate, pass and see the white light. Also, the guy is going to ascend to heaven and overthrow God himself. Then the sound of horses' hooves is heard. They're driving a carriage. The driver informs the passenger that they have reached Coral of Vinzao. In the carriage is the legendary Dr. Du Shiking. Then their way lies to the nearest tea house. They are met by someone's servant. He says he is glad to see the doctor and my lord wanted to meet him. Dushi, getting out of the carriage, hears this and asks the servant again. The doctor raises his head and anger and irritation are visible on his face. This is the 5th Chancellor of King Ro. He apologizes for interrupting Du Shin's journey. The doctor is interested, while drinking tea, in what he can help the Chancellor. King Ro's monologue begins. I need your service. On the way to the Iron Cloud Kingdom to King Tai Shichen, Crown Prince Tai Butiana intends to take the throne from his father. Besides, he is not the true heir to the throne of Iron Cloud. The doctor interrupts and says that he does not understand the words of King Ro, but he continues. Crown Prince Tai Butiana intends to take the throne from his father. Besides, he is not the true heir to the Iron Cloud throne. There is a claim that only a true king can rule, and not a temporary replacement. It doesn't matter how smart the prince is, he can't change the fact that he is still not a king. Also from the mouth of King Ro, the phrase about the outbreak of war in the country of Da Zhao in a month sounds. We are being initiated into the history of the war between Da Zhao and the Iron Cloud Kingdom. More than 10 years ago, a destructive war began between Da Zhao and the Iron Cloud Kingdom. Iron Cloud warriors dressed in impenetrable armor joined the battle. Emperor Tai Shichen was indestructible. In the end, Emperor Da Zhao couldn't even after sending the death squad. They didn't have a chance against Iron Cloud. And then an archer appeared and it turned the tide of the whole battle. His arrows flew at the target from a distance of 100 meters and although Tai Shichen was closed, the arrow still wounded the emperor, piercing the body of that warrior. The arrow was poisoned with poison, but no one had an antidote. Left without a leader and with their tails between their legs, they were forced to retreat. Taking advantage of the chance, the Da Zhao kingdom seized part of the territory that belonged to Iron Cloud. The whole story of King Ro led to Dr. Du's request to cure Tai Shichen, because his life can be useful. The doctor is outraged by these words, because he will give his honor and break the doctor's oath. King Ro begins to blackmail the doctor. Then he approaches him and openly threatens, do not forget, Dr. Du, that your whole family lives in the kingdom of Da Zhao and they expect you to return unharmed. The Chancellor leaves in his carriage and guards. We see Dr. Du's carriage. The man who drives the horses offers to arrange a halt for Dr. Du because it's already dark, to which the doctor replies, as you wish. But at this moment, Du Shin has a strong dissonance in his head, because he needs to make a very difficult decision that King Ro gave him. This time it is tedious for the doctor to make the right decision. His thoughts are interrupted by the shouts of his guards. An attack is being carried out. At the moment, a shower of arrows falls on Dr. Dushi's carriage, which wounded his guards. Next, the driver of the carriage decides to attack the opponents, because his duty is to protect Dr. Du, and my husband makes a shield of yellow lightning, which repels arrows, breaking them. A huge arrow flies towards the carriage where Dr. Du is, but a brave man blocks her way. He covers the doctor with his body. There is a grin on his face and lightning sparkles from his eyes. The man uses the style of explosive fists. With a large number of blows, he causes severe damage to the threat. The man stands to the last. He can't lose. His duty is to protect the doctor. But then there is a strong outbreak, and we see blood flowing from my husband's mouth. There are some people standing behind him. He is in black clothes, wearing helmets with a red tassel on them. One of them has a red handkerchief. We can conclude that he is their main one. One of these people says that he is impressed, but at the same time he expected from the Flaming Sword clan that he was able to block that huge arrow with his bare hands. We also learn the name of this man, the famous Gao Chen of the Stone Sword clan. Gao Chen asks who these people are and why they attacked. They did not answer the question. The head ordered to surround the man and dared to attack him. Gao Chen is not a bit afraid. He is outraged that they decided to attack him with such a small detachment. We also see that someone else is watching the battle. This is a reinforcement. Their head utters bold words, Dushi, prepare for death. The phrase, are you guys cool, is being blasphemed from above. Shu Yong is being induced on the tree. After the guy is looked up from the bottom, he jumps down from the tree and uses the icy palm technique. Warriors immediately begin to defend themselves and defend their leader. Shu Yong lands behind the leader, turns his head, then the body. In his hand is a sword that is already at the neck of the leader of the army. Next we see a sword swing with blood. Gao Chen is injured. Opponents mockingly say that he is no longer able to shorten from their attacks, and with a cry of die he swings to deliver a control blow to the man. Then the phrase sounds, "Do not move." Chu Yong has taken the leader of the army hostage and threatens to take his life if they dare to harm Gao Chen. The guy holds a sword right at the leader's neck, which does not give him a chance to escape. The whole army is perplexed by this turn of events, and their leader begins to threaten that he will harm the whole family of Chu Yong. But the guy does not take any of his threats seriously. Because there is a blade at his throat right now, Chu Yong demands to close his mouth or he will use the blade right now. One of the troops, who has a red handkerchief tied around him, asks for negotiations. Chu Yong says that now the whole squad has to leave here, and the commander will be held hostage until Chu Yong and the doctor reach the Iron Cloud Gate. If they refuse, the guy will kill him right now. The army agrees to this deal and is asked to keep the promise, to keep the commander alive. Then the army leaves, leaving the commander alone with Chu Yong and others. The guy exhales with relief, saying that they are finally safe. After that, the leader of that army threatens Chu Yong again. The guy turns his head in his direction with a snide expression on his face. Then Chu Yong threatens the commander with a gesture. He, in turn, cuts out the fright and asks not to touch him. The main character brought him to the post and smeared his foot with salt. There were a lot of sheep in the neighborhood, and these animals like to lick salt, therefore tickled the commander with their tongue. To attract attention, the doctor made a sound, at which Chu Yong turned in his direction. After that, Dushi begins to thank the guy, because he is alive only because of his help. He asks the name of his savior and promises to believe his duty. Chu Yong clarifies the doctor's name. After that, a tear appears on his eye and he immediately pounces on Dushi with hugs and shouts that he is the guy's grandfather. Chu Yong says that he has been looking for Du Shin for a long time and they say he is the long-lost grandson of the doctor. He, in turn, expresses a lack of understanding of what is happening. Chu Yong hugs Dr. Du and tells him, 10 years ago, when the war between Da Zhao and Iron Cloud had just begun, you stopped for a while at Tiger Peak. The guy stopped hugging Dushi and asks him about his memories of this period. He replies that he remembers how 10 years ago, he collected herbs. Chu Yong interrupts him and asks if he remembers what he found there. And Chu Yong begins the story. While collecting herbs, the doctor met the widow Lai, who fell from the mountain. He used his herbs and abilities to save her life. And under the cover of night, he used one of his secret techniques, along with her. At this point, Dr. Du interrupts Chu Yong and says that he did not ruin his reputation in front of the servants. Gao Chen says in the doctor's ear, "Who knows what happened when you got drunk?" But Chu Yong clarifies that he was only talking about the girl's severe injuries and that Dr. Du helped heal her that night. Nothing else happened. After that, the doctor proudly scratches his dog and says how good his techniques are and do not underestimate them. Immediately after these words, Chu Yong says that the girl got pregnant and gave birth to a boy, just like Dushi, from which he falls into a stupor. The doctor took these words as blackmail or a threat and began to remind him that he had guards from the Flaming Sword clan. He picked up Gao Chen in his arms and waved threateningly at them. But Chu Yong says the doctor misunderstood him. The child belongs to the Wee Carpenter family and he got married right after Dushi left. These words further puzzle the doctor. He falls, hits the floor with his fist and asks for pity. Chu Yong agrees to explain everything. After the doctor left Mrs. Lai, on the way back, he found Chu Yong's father, who had fallen off a cliff while picking herbs. He had very serious injuries. Dushi tried a lot of techniques to save his life. And then, when he recovered, the doctor left without taking money from us. Moreover, he left them a bag of money. With the money he gave them, Chu Yong's family managed to hold out. Then they prayed for healthy Dushi and made a promise he is their guardian angel and they will definitely repay him for it. Further, Chu Yong says it hurts, but my father died 3 years ago when he went to Tiger Peak for herbs. He could not repay you with kindness, so he died in agony. It's a great luck that I met you here today and I can. The main character approaches the doctor and grabs his hands. He asks to be allowed to call Du Shin father, to which the doctor only asks to let go of his hands. Dushi then asks how Chu Yong found out about the ambush, if it was unexpected, to which the guy with an absolutely calm face points with his finger with the words over there. To the side where Chu Yong pointed there is a cart with a lot of inscriptions. On the sides of this cart there are 2 workers holding a sign with the inscription Fresh News. Dushi covers his face with his hand and says he can't believe the killers are hunting for the doctor's head. Hearing this, one of the sellers says, "Well, we couldn't afford such an expensive trip, so we increased the budget by selling the rights to the live broadcast to the CCTV channel and renting a newspaper cart. We earned 5,000 from the sale of magazines and 70,000 from the live broadcast," which in the end amazes the doctor. He gets very angry and shouts that this news wagon was leaving as soon as possible, which they do next. Dushi says to Chu Yong, "Well, you saved me and my people from death. The doctor does not have time to finish the sentence. Gao Chen interrupts him and says about the danger of going longer without Chu Yang. The main character kneels and makes Dr. Du younger, so that he does not drive him away, and begins to put pressure on Pity, reminding him of his dead father. The doctor finally asks for Chu Yang's name. After this question, the doctor asks the following question, which sounds like this: the person who killed Shikayan is Chu Yang. The guy says that this person is really Chu Yang. This is a new chapter in Chu Yang's life. With the support of the clan, the master who taught him personally, the brothers who cared so much about Chu Yang, and the guy starts telling a story about his older sister, greatly dramatizing her. This story resonates strongly in Du Xin's heart. He says, with tears in his eyes, that he also loved his older sister very much at a young age. Night. We see a tent with arrows scattered around it. Chu Yang meditates. He turns to the Sword of the Nine Disasters, saying that he is ready to learn new techniques. He is punished because the guy concentrated all the spiritual energy in his fingers. Chu Yang does so, sitting in the lotus position. He concentrates the activity in his fingers, which is clearly visible on them. The fingers emit light. After that, the guy has to concentrate the strongest flow of energy. The metal from the arrows turned into sand. He obeyed Chu Yang. This is a secret technique of the World Master level. In turn, the sand from the metal from the arrows is collected into a ball. This technique is capable of making anything out of metal. We are being moved 3 days ahead. We see a cart with guards around it. In this cart are Chu Yang and Dr. Dushi. They are having tea, and the doctor offers to learn something new to the guy. Dushi holds out his hand, in which he holds some books. The doctor says that they contain the works of his whole life. The man also said that he hoped that Chu Yang would give them to someone. The main character looks thoughtfully at these manuscripts. The people guarding Dr. Du tell him that the Iron Cloud Palace is already visible and they will reach it soon. Chu Yang looks out of the window of the carriage and hears the commander of the army that had previously made an attempt on Dr. Du, a reminder of their deal, namely that the guy should let him go. The leader of the criminal gang asks Chu Yang to answer and says that the guy is not responsible for his words. In response, Chu Yang says that he always keeps his word, holding out his hand to a man. Chu Yang's hand ends up on the back of the commander's head. The hero grabs and lifts the man, after asking him for 100 miles. Chu Yang dusts off his hands. Dr. Du says that the prince himself will receive them soon, and this is a good opportunity to make new connections. But Chu Yang says he won't be able to accompany the doctor to the castle, because his mission was to get the doctor to safety and the guy to leave for now. After these words, Chu Yang runs away, and Dr. Du and Gao Chen look at it with surprise. We see how Chu Yang quickly runs away. At this moment he has the following thoughts in his head. Dr. Du and Old Man Gao, you brought me to the light, although I wanted to enter the castle with you and see Tai Bu Chan, but this is not the best solution. I have to create such conditions for myself so that they themselves invited me to Tai Bu Chan. Next, we see Prince Tai Bu in all his glory, who tells his servants to find Dr. Du. The guards of Tai Bu notice a silhouette running at them. The prince marks his fast speed. When the silhouette approached so that the face of the runner could be seen, it turns out to be Chu Yang. Tai Bui knows the guy. He quickly runs past the prince. Chu Yang remembers his father being like a god on the battlefield. Everything around him was filled with hope, because everyone believed him. Only Chu Yang's father could lead them to victory. But the arrow of the enemy pierced his chest. Thereby he received a wound incompatible with life. The father fell to the ground. His comrades shed tears, despair, and hopelessness. At the same time, Chu Yang understands that the other has taken responsibility for himself. But my father was dying for his country. We are visiting the Iron Cloud Palace. Chu Yang, whom we now see in full growth, finally found himself here, having gone through such a thorny path. But then the guy's attention is attracted by a passing guard. He comes to the conclusion that the guards are looking for someone. You never know him. Chu Yang notices an alley, which he decides to run into. Taking all the clothes he could find on the street, Chu Yang appears before us in a new image. Blonde hair, gathered in a mohawk, short stature, a pronounced hump, and a lollipop in his hand. The guy notices that no one recognizes him now. Chu Yang is walking along a crowded street, where offers to buy one or another product are heard from every corner. The screams of a young lady can be heard. A bully is accosting her. When asked to leave the girl alone, the man replies that no one will help her. At this moment, Chu Yang appears. He takes the man by the shoulder, asking for forgiveness for the trouble. He throws it away from the young lady. The main character pressed him against the wall and rubbing his fists, says, "They say he is a hunchback from the fifth mountain and beats all the hooligans in this city and threatens to take all the money from the man." To all this, he replies that there is no money at all. Chu Yang looks even more menacingly at the bully and asks again about money. But the man reminds that he is just a petty hooligan. In fact, he had always wanted to work under such a bandit as Chu Yang presented himself to him. Now gangster groups around the world are looking for subordinates. The man tells Chu Yang that he is being chased everywhere and being under the guy's command is his last chance. but he looks at him in silence and continues to listen. The man continues to talk about his capabilities and why Chu-young should take him to himself: cooking, cheating, stealing, recruiting newcomers, running errands. He also lists what he requires: a medical policy and a salary. With all this information, Chu-young swings his fist at the bully and hits him on the head. The guy says that he doesn't need a gang, because the only thing he is interested in is information about the Iron Cloud Castle. The bully responds instantly and says that Chu-young has come to the right place because he earns a summer job as a tourist guide. In parallel with these words, he rummages in some kind of bag.